Atheists have long scoffed at accusations of religiosity. We can't be religious, because atheism is by definition non-religious, is the common retort. The recent actions of those affiliated with the organization called American Atheists, however, actually bring legitimacy to such charges, at least when the essence of religiosity, blind dogmatism, is what is being highlighted via references to religiousness. A friend messaged me some slides from a talk that was hosted at AACon. While the full speech isn't available online, we can get a pretty good idea of what it was about from what we can see here. As can be plainly seen, it's just more of the same condescending and banal nonsense that has long been peddled by Black Lives Matter activists. The speaker, an absolutely lovely person called Mandiza, wants to make it extra clear that if you disagree with anything that she has to say, and if you happen to have pale skin, then you are inserting your opinion where it may not belong. Mandiza: yes, I do not know you. I have never interacted with you in any fashion whatsoever. This, however, does not mean that I am unable to apply reason to the information that is presented in front of me. My pale skin does not preclude me from using my brain to identify lapses of logic. If there is a greater context that somehow justifies the ideas that you would communicate in the slides that have been revealed to the public, then release the recording of the talk, or at least release the entire slide deck so that people can make an informed assessment. No. Asking you to present evidence for your arguments is not expecting BIPOCs to provide uncompensated education. Rather, it is holding you to your intellectual responsibility. Claims that are presented without evidence can be rejected without evidence. For now, I will address that which is available to me. Going line for line, appeal to authority is indeed a logical fallacy, regardless as to what kind of supposed authority it is. It doesn't matter if the source being touted as authoritative is white and male, or black and female. One's ideas are not validated one iota by whether or not there is agreement with them from elsewhere. Ideas can only stand on their own merits. Either reason and evidence supports a proposition, or it does not. Due to the fact that you felt the need to specify white and male, however, I suspect that the perceived grievance behind your first two bullet points is that you believe that those who reference the ideas and scholarship of some prestigious white males necessarily do so due to the fact that they are white males, rather than based upon the merits of those ideas and the intellectual rigor of their scholarship. If I am wrong, then prove me wrong. However, I doubt that I'm wrong about this, given the fact that your subsequent bullet points seem to possess precisely those characteristics that you would impute upon your perceived opposition. You would characterize the recognition that legal racial discrimination has indeed long been abolished as thinking that we're all on an equal playing field, and thereby upholding white supremacy. You accuse others of inserting their opinions where they do not belong, a clever trick to characterize any dissent from your claims as upholding white supremacy. Rejecting the vile ideology that is critical race theory is, according to you, upholding white supremacy. Asking you to present evidence for your claims is characterized as expecting uncompensated education, and therefore, any who do so must be complicit in upholding white supremacy. What is particularly telling is your guilting for tithes. If I don't give you money, I am apparently now a white supremacist. No, Black lives are not devalued by my refusal to blindly believe that which you preach. Black lives are not made to not matter by the fact that I won't fund your mansion. Whatever BIPOCs are, you seem to see them as a special class of people to whom whitey must bow. Now, I have absolutely no idea what it means to encroach on BIPOC spaces, and I don't know who thinks that reading books resolves everything. However, I doubt that I can expect an explanation for such things, since even the act of asking what is meant is, to you, expecting uncompensated education. As such, I think that it can be safely concluded that these, as well as the platitudinal expressions of aversion towards the phrase, all lives matter, can be summed up as nothing more than a petulant whine. The other two slides that we have elucidate further on Mendiza's worldview. She would have you believe that you are guilty, by default, of the original sin of subconscious white supremacy, and if you don't do penitence, then you remain complicit in it. Her talk about being open-minded and educating yourself is wholly disingenuous when you take into account the fact that if you arrive at a different conclusion from her, you must be, in her eyes, a white supremacist. What she offers isn't education, it is indoctrination. When she speaks of being open-minded, she is really speaking of blindly believing in what she has to say. She leaves no room for the possibility that she may be wrong. As one could expect, these slides were not received well by people who are capable of thinking. Criticism of the speaker's ideas was met by a horde of utterly useless people, the kind of people who are nothing but a conglomeration of the feelings and opinions of their peers. In defense of the indefensible, the supposedly thinking atheist, Seth Andrews, insists that her presentation wasn't about white guilt, but rather it was about understanding prejudicial mechanisms as we work together across the spectrum for equality. Tell me, Seth, what if I, using the powers of my own mind, analyze these supposed mechanisms and arrive at completely different conclusions from you? What if I don't agree that much of what is touted as a prejudicial mechanism is so? How are we to fix the machine if we can't even agree on what its function should be? What if I disagree with you on what equality even is, or what is needed to be done to achieve it? According to Mendiza, it seems that any such dissent on my part means that I do in fact carry the guilt of upholding white supremacy. But go on, tell me more about how you don't do white guilt, whilst then proceeding to do white guilt. There is a deeper reason for maintaining an aversion towards religion other than a mere dislike for the term. I think that I speak not only for myself when I say that the aversion that many atheists have, in the past, expressed towards religiosity is primarily due to the unthinking acceptance of unproven dogmas, blind cult-like conformity to the inclinations of the group, the spirit of obeisance and venality. All of these characteristics of religion are fundamental to today's fashionable ideology of so-called social justice. Its ideological champions, much in the same vein of preachers of old, insist that we subordinate our minds to them. Those who do not are shunned and unequivocally condemned by the faithful. What gave the atheist movement at large its legitimacy was its emphasis upon free thinking. American Atheists itself started as an organization for liberty. It began in reaction to impositions carried out upon non-believers by the religious. To this end, it is no longer fit for purpose. It is clear that in the mainstream atheistic movement, skepticism and rationality are no longer at the forefront of their values. A mere opposition to Christianity is not sufficient to stoke the intellectual fires of those who live by the mind. There is nothing special about opposing religions. It is quite normal for every religious person to maintain a disdain for every other religion. Rather, the reason why we oppose religions is what matters. Religion is detrimental not merely because they teach people to believe things that don't exist. Rather, religion is primarily detrimental because it teaches people to stop thinking, to entrap themselves within a mental cage of dogma, to subordinate their minds to those of others. If you, like I, mourn the death of free thinking amongst secular groups, then you might find like-minded individuals amongst the Atheists for Liberty. I have certainly found it an absolutely refreshing experience to be able to engage in positive dialogue with freethinkers who have not been ideologically captured by the evil dogmas of oppressive community and false justice. They have a Discord server for members, as well as many opportunities to get involved in activism, to save this nation from the authoritarians who are attempting to devour it from every which direction. Furthermore, if you support the values upon which my commentary is based, or if you just found my point of view interesting, then you will certainly hear more of it. If you like the video, comment for engagement, subscribe, and hit the bell. Let us together reignite the fire within the American spirit.